Hello and welcome back. I want to apologise for any sound issues in this video. We are not having a very good time here and there's a lot going on, but I thought I would do this now because why the hell not? Hi from my kitchen. Rings of Power Season 2 has been announced, and like Subdo the usual guys. So, Season 2 is not looking particularly promising. The leaks have not been particularly promising. There have been heavy reshoots and heavy rewrites and a team of people behind it who can't quite agree on what they're trying to do. Amazon are treating Season 1 as a pilot, effectively, and there are rumours that things will be retconned and changed. Let's be real. Rings of Power is not a good show. It was the biggest premiere, as I said, but yet it didn't hold the audience. A show where nothing happens in a virtually abandoned Middle-earth with unlikable Mary Sue as a main character that is not representative of anything written in the appendices or the Silmarillion, which they do not have the rights to. It's also bred a rabid and unintelligent fan base of people that either want to get off to it or have to like it because of representation and diversity, rather than actually being anything critical of the show. Its fan base, such as the Unhinged Fellowship, are a bunch of rabid animals on the internet, and they really need to get their rabies shots. And maybe an STD check, let's be real. And maybe a bar of soap would be good for most of these people, my god. The show is going up against The House of the Dragon, which is a phenomenally brilliant fantasy show. The lower end of fantasy, but my god, do they do good in that show. Season 1 had me hooked, and it was a relief. It was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it. I had my misgivings, and my misgivings was Matt Smith. I'm not a great lover of him a lot of the time, but I really like him in this. He plays it so well, and it took me time to get to like him. I haven't warmed to any characters in Rings of Power, and the only characters I liked was the dwarf princess and her husband. Literally, in the entire show. A show that not only breaks the timeline, but also has no care for the source material that they have the rights to. Its rabid fanbase on the internet are clapping like seals at the announcement of Season 3, which, by the way, is not an announcement or a renewal. It exists because it is contractually obligated. There will be 5 seasons of this show no matter what happens. Let's be real, this show could get 5 viewers per episode and there would still be 5 seasons. That's how it works. Although, going by the leaks and the rumours, they are rushing ahead with the storyline. Now, it's been quite interesting because someone from the inside was apparently feeding Fellowship of Fans some fake information. Now, I'm going to clarify this. A lot of studios leak stuff. A lot of people behind the scenes intentionally leak material, both correct and incorrect, to get people talking. It's a marketing strategy. Oh, this artist song leaked on the internet, so they're releasing it early. Of course they are, because they did it themselves. It's not a big leap to make. Knowing people in the recording industry is quite fun. Now, when it comes down to it, and I mean this, Amazon to stop making the show would have to pay a hell of a lot of money. No if, buts, or maybes. There would have to be a lot of money to change hands. It's an interesting one to watch because it's almost like a psychological dip into the human experience. I see Pinterest accounts dedicated to Hellbrand and how much they want to get in his pants. There are people who are obsessed with the actress that plays Galadriel in a way that is extremely uncomfortable, to the point that I really think people need to talk to her about those. I wish no harm on the actors, because actors are performing monkeys. They are there to read lines and give a performance and go home. That's it. Although the actors on the show seem to be such wonderful people on the internet, and I will judge them for their behaviour and actions against people that are meant to be fans, including the irony fans of the show but don't necessarily like it all. Rings of Power reminds me that you cannot polish a turd. Cheap, over-bloated, $1 billion TV show that looks like someone went to Spirit Halloween. Beautiful CGI, But it's interesting the amount of people that are just impressed by visuals. But why? And I say beautiful CGI in the distant shots. Let's not forget the wolves, that the grass was going through them. Long story short, when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. Small claustrophobic sets do not help that matter at all. The show feels rushed. It feels screams of heavy reshoots and production behind it that don't feel particularly good. There are countless rumours that the One Ring will be forged at the end of Season 2, which gives me a theory. And this is a whole thing. They're going to rush ahead into certain storylines. I also get the feeling we might see less episodes as the show moves on. Let's be real here. If Amazon are not promoting their own show, it really does scream that they are in a catch-22. Amazon Studios have lost money and are firing people. They've cancelled shows that were massive cash cows to keep this show going. Unlikable cast and unlikable characters, poorly written, detrite dialogue. And I don't care about changes. That is the thing. Changes away, fine, but do it well. There is no such thing as a perfect adaptation, because 100% perfect doesn't exist. What works on a page will not work on a screen. Something that needs 500 pages to say in a book maybe needs 30 seconds on screen. The epic prologue could be reduced to a flashback. That's how adaptation works. And the Peter Jackson movies, despite my issues with The Hobbit, but that is a whole other story and more to do with studio interference. It makes me wonder what could have been with the Guillermo del Toro stuff. I had 2 films with Guillermo del Toro directing and Peter Jackson producing. He left because of studio interference, because they wanted a prequel to The Lord of the Rings, not The Hobbit. It's a whole video, it's on this channel, find it. It's interesting watching something you love get destroyed repeatedly. We've had Star Trek Discovery, Disney Star Wars, now Lord of the Rings. It's interesting that Amazon actually have to pay Warner Brothers the rights to use certain characters. There are many rumours flying around that the show was completely and heavily retooled after the death of Christopher Tolkien and the firing of Shippey. The thing is, it's not giving the fans what they want, and instead this show is appealing to activists on Twitter who have no personalities of their own other than look at me and here's my pink hair and nose ring. People that have gone after people, attempted to dox them and find their information. People that cry foul if they're remotely criticised by the fandom themselves, and watching that go down was amazing. It's fascinating to watch, and just realising that the high level of... and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but there is clearly a high level of neurodivergence going on here, that people cannot separate their reality from fiction. People presume these characters are real and these characters are this and characters are that. The show is trash. The audience it's created are absolute garbage. And this show is designed to appeal to the lowest common denominator. Amazon thought that slapping Tolkien's name on it, they could get away with murder, and they literally did. They created a show that people will make excuses for, Photoshop notes and letters, say things that Amazon have access to secret texts that no one's ever seen from Tolkien before. Do you really think the Tolkien estate would sit on that? Come on. As an ex-member of the Tolkien Society, I can tell you here and now, the Tolkien Society has fallen to these people that will defend Milady's honour in the Rings of Power with their lives. Then you had people like Charles, who was a complete sex pest. Let's be real, who got completely obsessed and then got outed as a creep on the internet to other women. Come on. And they tried to brush that under the rug because they know, and we all know, if it was someone that didn't like the show, they would never let anyone forget it. This show is a tremendous failure. People are laughing at it. It's one of the most boring comedies you've ever watched in your life. And this news that has come out has not only did that, it's also created division in a way that I never saw before. And watching a certain person, Timothy Twat, on the internet, attention seek and bring me and other people, and this constant stalking of our accounts is extremely unhealthy. It's genuinely unhealthy at this point. Like I said, the show is detrite and aimed at the lowest common denominator, the Twitter activist. People with no personality or identity of their own that all conform to a narrative. The endless victimhood that this show, the actors, and everyone keeps spinning is absolutely ridiculous, but the blatant lies that people say on the internet about Lord of the Rings, about Tolkien, about Peter Jackson, and how vilifying Peter Jackson in this situation was quite interesting. Oh, but the Lord of the Rings movies weren't good. They criticised the Lord of the Rings movies for the exact same reason people are criticising Rings of Power. Yet, despite the changes, they're good movies, with a narrative, and structure, and performance. Rings of Power is a cash grab, created by Amazon in hopes of cashing in on the success of fantasy like Game of Thrones. They aimed for the show to become the phenomenon, the talk of the town and the people who would sit there and talk about this show at the water cooler in the office. But it hasn't. Then they said, oh, it's for a niche audience. You don't make $1 billion TV show that's losing money and losing staff and losing creatives to be a niche show. The House of the Dragon, far superior in its storytelling, its acting, its writing and performances, shows that fantasy can work. But we live in an age where every fantasy show looks the same, pretty much. Look at The Witcher, the mess that that's become. Look at the vilifying of Henry Cavill. I also find it quite interesting that all the people on the internet are fawning over two actors and desperately wanting them to get hot and naughty together. There are Pinterest boards dedicated to these people. There is AI adult content about them. There is even a foot website, if you get my drift, dedicated to the feet of the two main actors, which, if rumours are true, are not particularly getting on behind the scenes. It's interesting that the whole situation is just a mess, and people fawning over this show, unwilling to hear criticism, or attacking people for criticism. I've never attacked people directly. I might talk about them on the internet, but I will never go after them directly. But they've come after me. But I would never dox people, find their private information. Ever. Ironically there. It's basically just a rabid, unintelligent fan base of shills who don't have anything to do in their lives other than watch a TV show to get off to. It's kinda sad. Let's be real. I do wonder what the future will hold, and there are many rumours and insiders that Amazon want out and Bezos is not happy with Rings of Power. I think they've made a huge mistake in competing with the House of the Dragon again. People will just go over to that show because it's so good. You know, there's a whole list of things that could happen and go on. Right? So, I do wonder what's next. I do wonder how it will happen, and it'll be interesting when the season drops. I'm expecting, going by the leaks, Twilight with elves. That seems to be what they're doing, and they will use the actors of colour and the all-female directors to literally shield from criticism and throw them under the bus, because how dare you criticise something directed by a woman, or how dare you criticise something with a black actor in it. At the end of the day, it's a generic boring show aimed at generic boring people that spend their lives on Twitter, who believe they're morally superior to everyone else, and will call you every name under the sun and make up stuff about you. It's interesting. Vile, angry people that I wouldn't want to see anything happen to them. But let's be real. Would I pay to watch? Yes. I love the quote from my grandmother, I never wish harm on anyone, but it means wouldn't stop me from paying for a ticket to watch it happen. Because I'm a little bit of a nihilist, and I do enjoy that stuff. Rings of Power is flat and uninspiring, and if you want to watch it, you can get DVDs of it on Temu and Wish and eBay that are completely pirated. But in fairness, it's trying to get this show other ways is seemingly impossible because the seeds were not very good. I spent 2 hours locked in a hot projection booth, well, 3 hours locked in a hot projection booth watching this thing from above and thinking, what the hell was that? It's just not a very good show, and it'll be interesting. And that's also the thing. I have no motive operandi to deal with this show or make money out of it. If I was doing that, there are other ways. Considering that Amazon offered to pay me at one point to help promote it, there was a side of me thinking I really need the money, but I couldn't do it. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Let's look and be ready for the war that's going to go across Twitter and social media over Detroit like Rings of Power. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.